you. My warm greetings to all. Today I, Vishakha, stand affirmative to the resolution. School education should be free and compulsory for all. Okay, I would like to begin by taking a scenario where school education is free and compulsory for all. Okay, so let's take it as in a locality where there's a mixture of the people who live in it. That is, it also has families, the backward families and also well-to-do families. That means both the kids from both the families have to attend one public school, the same public school. Once they attend the same public school, I'm sure some of you will raise the question of social barriers. Well, but how many generations is that actually going to last for? One generation, two generations? But won't school education actually help them realize that everyone has a right to equality? I mean, they don't choose in which family they are born in. So, I mean, it's not their fault if they were born in a backward family. And if you ask how school education is going to help us, it's through civics. Civics does teaches us about our rights and stuff. And this is not only about the social tolerance. We can also talk about religious tolerance. Maybe the kids coming from the backward family belong to an ABC religion, and the kids coming from a well-to-do family belong to an XYZ religion. Both of them are going to place their opinions in that very school, and both of them are going to get used to it, understand each other's opinions, have clashes of opinions, yes, but then also accept them. That is religious tolerance, and I think if religious tolerance is inculcated in many people, I think most of our world's problems are actually solved. Now, let's talk about another relatable issue. That's about the conditions of females in the society. I would like to cite the example of the Nirbhaya case. Yes, I'm sure just the mention of the name actually sends chills down our spines. If we interact with different people, they might say, oh my God, I just hope no other Nirbhaya is born. But have we actually thought, I mean, what was Nirbhaya's fault? I say 1,000 Nirbhayas should be born, but no other rapist should be born. And for no other rapist to be born, the family should be educated and the rapist should be educated too. And I would actually like to quote the rapist's words. That was, I didn't know what I was doing was wrong, because I actually saw that happening in my slums, in the different families that belong to the slums. The condition of women, like what I did to Nirbhaya, was actually just normal, because I saw that happening in my place where I will stay. And he didn't know what was happening, that what actually was happening around him was wrong, because he wasn't educated. And let's talk about the women. Why didn't they raise their voice? Because they weren't educated too. If they got the access to education, if education was made free and compulsory for them too, they would have also known what was happening to them and about their own rights. Let's say, I would take another example. Let's say a girl, bachelor woman staying in a place, okay. She is not very educated, but she's living alone in a place. She sees her neighbor has a telescope in his room and actually spies on him. She knows what's happening is wrong, but she's not aware that it's actually violating her right to freedom and to privacy. So she doesn't know if it's right to raise her voice against it. I mean, if suppose she knows it's wrong, but she doesn't know if there is a law that actually protects this right. So whom is she actually going to go to? She doesn't even know where to go and raise her voice, the platform where she can, place her problem. So this again comes with education, school education, which is again civics, that teaches you about rights. Now let's come to why school education should be free and compulsory. Okay, all of us know, okay, let's take the example of India. All of us know that about 30% of the population is below poverty line. The parents are uneducated, so obviously the children will be uneducated. By that I mean parents, they do small wages job in their villages and stuff. So then that's the only source of income. So why would they even want to like spend money on education? That's like a secondary thing for them. And since they're uneducated, they think the more kids they produce, the more hands they'll get to actually contribute to get wages and to get income in their family. So they even force their kids to work for them so that they can get more income in the family. Time's up. Okay. I rest my case. So now I call upon the first speaker from the opposition team. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roshi Sharma, and I'm going to speak against the topic. We know that education provides us with personal development, mind shaping. It helps us in keeping organized and developed and disciplined. But there are many children in this world who do not get this basic right. There are about almost 100 million children all over the world who don't get to go to school at all. There can be reasons that the school does not provide quality education or qualifying from such schools won't get a child a better career in future. Poor quality education means lacking basic knowledge. There are about 250 million children where they do not learn the basic knowledge. To solve this problem, UNICEF, that is the United Nations Educational, Social and Cultural Organization, created a global movement called the EFA, which is known as the Education for All, which aims at providing basic free education to all the children around the world. But creating these movements and making laws and making the schools compulsory for all won't be necessary. This is because of many reasons, such as in many underdeveloped or developing countries, there is a large amount of gender discrimination. According to the UNICEF, an estimated 31 million girls...
You just said that there is a lot of gender differentiation in these countries and economies. So my question is, when there is education and when their children are educated, will there still be this gender differentiation?
No.
So you oppose your own point.
31 million girls of primary school age and 32 million girls of lower secondary school age were out of school in 2013. South and West Asia has the widest gender gap in its out-of-school population. 80% of its out-of-school population are girls. There could also be a reason for violating freedom and liberty. It should be an individual choice if the child wants to go to school or not. For example, Dave Thomas, founder and CEO of fast food empire Wendy's, dropped out of high school to work full-time at the Hobby House restaurant in Fort Wayne. His net worth was $99 million. Thomas Alva Edison is probably the most famous and productive inventors of all time, with more than 1,000 patents in his name, including electric light bulb and motion picture camera. Was also a school dropout. So how can we say that it is necessary to go to school to become a famous person? Or yes.
How can you say that when a person drops out of school, he's going to be successful? How do you know that?
We need basic talent for that.
But you're
A problem of social understanding can also arise. As education would be free, children from all social diversities would come to study and not everyone may like it. Example, if both poor and rich students come to study, the rich might get offers from many children, particularly those children with a disability, those suffering from malnutrition or illness, or those who are required to work around the household. Imagine having to set off for school hungry at 5 a.m. and returning back at 7 p.m. So, according to the UNESCO report, there are over 50 countries, including the US, South Africa, Malaysia, and a majority of sub-Saharan African countries which do not have any constitutional provision to provide free and compulsory education. So, in my speech, I have mentioned US also, which is a developed country and it does not provide free and compulsory education. So, I would like to say that education is good, but making it free and compulsory is not always good. Thank you.
Nasrat Singh. I'd like to start off with some cases. Okay, let's take the example of the country Latvia in Europe. Okay, 99.8% of Latvians are educated according to a report in 2015. And out of this, the gross primary enrollment rate is 95.8% and the net primary enrollment rate is 84.5%. Okay, now with these statistics at hand, let's look at another country, Guinea in Africa. You might be shocked to hear that the literacy rate in this country as of 2015 is only 30%, out of which 38% of males and only 22% of females have received primary education. Now I'll tell you the main difference these countries face. When designing their education policies, Latvia has offered free education up to the age of 15, while Guinea hasn't. There might be other fundamental differences between these countries, but don't you think that if Guinea would have made their policy similar to Latvia, there would have been an increase in the literacy rate? However small it might have been, there would have been an increase. People might argue against my point by saying that the government might not be able to afford giving free education to their citizens. Well, I'd like to tell them that the World Bank offers loans to countries in need of it. Let's take the scenario that the government has taken a loan to fund its education. As a result, the people are literate. Okay, now they can get high-paying jobs, earn money, increase the GDP of the country, and pay taxes to the government. Now the government can use these taxes to pay back the loans of the World Bank. So everyone's happy now. There's no problem in it at all. I rest my case.
I'm Zoya and I'm here to speak against the topic. Now, I am a firm believer in education, but free education will promote laziness in schools. They won't think that they need to be more into it. They won't think that they need to give quality performance because the government, the state has to fund them. There's no other chance. Private schools promote better education because if they are not leading towards the students, if they are not looking towards the students, the parents will make the students change the school, and the school will suffer. Now, if the rich and poor both will study under the same roof, there will be some discrimination. There will be some discrimination, which will take me to my next point: bullying. Now, 1 in 3 students report being bullied during school year. 64% of students who are bullied did not report, and this was the case because people were too scared to do it.
Point of information.
Yes.
You were saying that 64% of children who were bullied didn't report it. So if they were educated enough, don't you think they would have reported it then?
My point is, these children who are being bullied are studying. They are in a school. This bullying is happening in a school. So why are they not reporting it? See, that's the point is, if they are studying, but they don't have this mind control, which only studying can't give them. Now, if a student is being bullied, how will he or she concentrate on his study? And there are cases too when a child doesn't want to study. He wants to pursue something else. Statistics show that every year 200 teenagers worldwide commit suicide due to pressure and stress of school. And rate being highest in Asia, USA and Russia. And USA and Russia are actually developed country. Asia, some parts are developing and some are developed. That in India, 20 students kill themselves almost every day due to the stress related to exams. South India is actually considered the world suicide capital, especially Kerala.
A point of information.
Yes.
Yeah, you're actually referring to suicides being committed by the students. Okay, if I give the case of India, most of the parents have this mindset because they're not literate enough. They have the mindset that their child has to become either a doctor or an engineer. So, isn't that why these children commit suicide?
We're not talking about the parents, we're talking about the students. If the student wants to pursue something else, but he's being forced into it, and if the education becomes compulsory, he has to go to school, and he won't be able to do something else. And it's not like to be successful, you just have to go to school. For example, Benjamin Franklin, who wore many hats, a politician, author, publisher, scientist, inventor, he had many accomplishments, but he was not a high school graduate. He dropped out of school when he was just 10. Other examples can be Bill Gates, Walt Disney, Richard Branson, who is a billionaire, George Burns and Charles Dickens, etc. And the other thing is why should we make the education free for people who can actually afford it. The taxes will increase. We'll have to pay the taxes. So technically, this education is not free. Now, the system of education can get poor, and teachers won't be well classified. Children will start taking things for granted and won't appreciate the education they are getting. To suggest free education is to suggest that people volunteer their time, the precious time, to teach in an open space that receives low maintenance. Many people might even want to stop taking the profession of a teacher. My point is education should be free for some, but making it free and compulsory for everyone is not the best idea. Thank you.
One and all present here. My name is Uday Chaudhary. I strongly agree with what House believes in, and I'd start with stating what opposition second speaker said, that everyone cannot afford private education, but like those who belong to poor families, they didn't choose to born in a poor family, right? So that's where we are fighting for. Education free and compulsory globally will actually provide for those who are underprivileged and are extra talented to get educated and show that what talent do they have, and be accepted in the society. If you provide education to a poor, he'll understand the value, and it will be really productive for him, and he can make the most out of it.
Point of information.
Sure.
As you mentioned in your speech that poor people would understand the value of education. Yeah, so in it's switched on but it's not working.
Is she audible to everyone?
So
As you mentioned in your speech that poor people understand the value of education. There are so many people in the government school, but they are always lethargic. They don't pay attention to school and studies.
Do you have any proof?
Yeah, there was also a video launched in which they were showing a government school of Kanpur in which students were unable to answer that who made Jan Gan Man.
There was also a video of students from government school who are successfully participating in debates, and many successful people in India from our country have pursued their education from government school, and they are still successful. And there will be more successful students who get free education in our country and will be successful. Literacy and education are two different things, right? School helps us giving moral values to the students, where they can learn about the equality, how can you live. I mean, people from different sections, right? As they stated, students will get bullied if they're maybe gender discrimination, whatever. If they're educated and will start living with each other, maybe for certain time it will be possible, but after some time they'll start living each other. It will finish the inequality. And as we are talking about, yeah.
I have to ask, as you just said, that the poor must be given the privilege to study for free. You say the Right Information Act is in India, and it states
I didn't
that
say that they should be given. I said underprivileged students.
Okay, I agree with you.
Yeah.
You said underprivileged.
Cross question, please.
So I was saying that they say birds without a child without education is just like a bird without wings. It cannot fly. It cannot bring food for build a nest. Same as with a child. In society, he cannot be accepted. There will be a problem in interacting with each other. People will find he'll feel left out, right? So for that, education is really necessary, and schooling plays a vital role in one's life, because everyone have right to education, and if it's done globally, we can probably wipe out the problems of inequality. Maybe wars won't be there, gender discrimination won't be there, crime can be reduced, and people have that image abroad of India that they don't want to go to such country because there's too much crime. Well, we'll be getting more tourism if everyone is educated and they know how to be well behaved. I want to rest my case. Thank you.
In the world has not got enough, has not got the basic education and have or are drop out of school. For example, Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. All of these are intelligent and quite successful, as we can see. Stereotypes and prejudice is a weapon that kills dreams. So I don't think that education should be compulsory for all. Also, education is an opportunity, not a gift. But when the children doesn't want to go to school, then why should they be forced? When kids are forced, they start feeling that they are doing the teacher or the society a kind of favor of showing up and
Point of
reading.
information. You mentioned about that stereotypes and prejudices kill dreams. Don't you think education helps eradicating them?
But when a person is not even has some other aspiration, then what can subjects like geography or maths teach them? Now, while learning is healthy and should be encouraged, forcing it through a compulsory institution only creates more stress for the students and takes away the time from the students to build social relations, involve themselves into activities like arts or be more creative. There are students who like to sing or dance. Now, what will geography
Point
or
of information. Like music and dance are subjects that are taught in school.
But there are students who want to focus in that particular subject, and when they go to school, they'll have to study about geography, maths and different other subjects, and they'll have to score. So they get a peer pressure and they have that pressure that I'll have to score and get marks. Also the families, they also pressurize the students that you will have to do good in this and you will have to do good in academics. Now that particular thing pressurizes the kid.
Point of information. You said that it's important, or they have family pressure that they have to do well in academics too. We have sports quota and stuff, like if people want to concentrate or build a career in sports, we do have sports quota where they're exempted if they do not have a great academic result.
I'll later on answer your question. Now it is highly likely that the government will expect income from other sources when they have to get fundings for the government schools and provide education for free. Now where will that income come from? It will come from the taxes, and there'll be a rise in taxes, and no one wants to pay taxes. So the poor people will get more poorer, and the poverty will increase. Also, providing it for free means bad quality education. Teachers will be less inspired to teach since everyone has access to it. Also, when children start going to school, their parents begin to lose influence they once had. They might get into negative influence, and they might choose wrong peer groups. The Monitoring the Future survey found that approximately 30% of 8th graders have used alcohol. Now, if we start funding in education, what will the poor people will start starving to death. So what use is the free education if we do not have the children? Now I would like to raise the case. Thank you.
One and all present here, I, Surya, strongly stand against the motion that the school education must be made compulsory and free in all over the world. Firstly, I would start by saying that education is considered as one of the most important aspects of one's life. But what I have to ask the proposition, the respected audience, the respected judges, that is being educated more important or being experienced more important? If we all know Albert Einstein. If he was forced to study in a school, were those great inventions made? No. We have all heard about William Shakespeare. He was a school dropout. But if the time to him was given for focusing on his reading work, on his written work about that, and those years which he has to face in the school, and he was given time to work on his skills, he's a legend. And but if the time, those 10, 11, 12, how many years it was given to him to work in the field in which he wanted to, he would have gone much farther. And I would say that we are talking that education must be made free. But is free education the only solution? If free education is provided, do you agree with that the teachers who are not being paid the wages as per their teachings, will they teach the students with the same enthusiasm? Will they do so? I am asking the proposition this thing. And one more thing I have to tell is that being educated is not important. Being civilized, being experienced, working good in whichever field you are is more important. I will state an example here that if Sachin Tendulkar, he's a sports person, the person who's known all around the world, if he was forced to study, then he would have made these great records? No, he wouldn't have done so. So I have to ask the proposition that don't you think that working on the place in which you are skillful is more important rather than studying maths, English or whatever it is? And further, I would say that there are many examples, and it is that education must be free. UN has stated a number of countries in which there is a hunger strike. They cannot provide a meal to their citizens. Then how can it be, we are talking on a worldwide aspect. Okay, we consider India, in India it is okay, we have the Right to Study Act. But what about the other countries which UN has stated? The education cannot be provided for free in all those countries. And here I have to say that instead of forcing someone, instead of making education compulsory, what one must focus on is making his citizens, the country's citizens, more skillful. Thank you.
Mentioned that education might take away our life. Well, I think to make proper decisions in life, and actually a life, what actually does the word life mean? It means when you give it a proper direction. An aimless person cannot have a life. And to give it a name, you need education. So that's the importance of the school education that comes here. Second, there was a lot of emphasis on social barriers again and again. The first and second speaker kept emphasizing on social barriers, and I addressed to it the first point I made, that yes, the poor and the rich, yes, it will take them time to get used to each other, to accept them, but how long will that prevail for? I mean, the school education, the civics that teaches you that, okay, everyone is equal, everyone has a right to be equal. And when they are supposed to be together, I mean, in one building under one roof, why wouldn't they actually be together? Why wouldn't they be accepted by each other? That's the social barriers. And then we speak about, yes, our opposition, they gave us a lot of examples. Yes, I do appreciate, and we do appreciate what the people, Albert Einstein, Steve Jobs, what they have achieved in life, but let's think practically. So even he needs school education, basic education to actually make, again, give a direction to his life. Then comes about how will the teachers be paid, and someone raised a point that if it's made free, then teachers will take their jobs lightly. So, I mean, that's a very tender age. I mean, I'm very glad if someone has achieved his goal that he made at the age of 4, but then let's think practical, how many people can do that?
Last 50 seconds.